But I'm glad you all came anyway. So, gee, I hardly needed a script at all today. Everybody turn off your cell phones if you haven't done that already.
Thank you.
I know, everybody forgets,
So we're
right?
also going to do that. Can you remind us to turn the back on?
Okay, the rest of them, well, everybody, welcome, welcome. Is anybody here for their first meeting? I don't think so. You? Oh, excellent.
Welcome.
You came
I'm sure.
You told me you came to Plant Meeting Day, so at least you're here for the second time. So welcome to you anyway.
No, I was here for plant set, not here. This is my first meeting.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to see Katherine.
Very good. Our volunteer opportunity this month, which most of you know about already, is for a volunteer photographer. We need somebody to take snapshots at meetings like this, chapter meetings, because it's real hard for me to, more like it is the audience. And events, we've got 3 events that we're tabling later this month. That means we have an information table, sorry. And we just could use some more snapshots, and the only requirement we have is that you have some way to transmit those to me or to another chapter member so that we can get them in the newsletter or in the archives and both. All right. We have a few, are all of you getting the newsletter? Are you getting the newsletter?
I'm sorry?
Do you get our newsletter, the one that comes
I don't think I've gotten that yet.
Okay, if you put your email or you signed up, excellent, then you'll start getting it. Okay. Well, since everybody already gets the newsletter, at the bottom of the agenda are additional areas where you can help the chapter. You're already almost everybody doing a whole lot anyway, but if you get the urge to do something else, my email is down there, so just contact me and let me know, and we'll get you hooked up with something else that you like to do. Now, I'm going to introduce Ruth, who is going to introduce our program. Katherine.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming today. Our speaker today is Dr. Katherine Clements. Dr. Katherine Clements is the Ecology and Nature Resources Educator for the University of Florida Extension and Sustainability, Sarasota County. Previously a practicing naturopathic physician with a background in environmental studies, she believes the health of the environment is intricately linked with our own health and well-being. She brings the love of all things natural to her position. The title of her presentation today is Intricately Entwined, Biodiversity, Nature, and Human Health. Please help me welcome Dr. Clements.
Thank you. I'll move my chair out of the way. I'm going to stumble into it probably. All right. So thank you all for being here. It is a beautiful day. I had a walk in Sarasota today, and it was just, I was so grateful to have an opportunity before it all goes down the drain into like the 90s, right? And 90% humidity. So thank you for being here inside with me today. I am going to talk about biodiversity and its impact on human health. So I know you guys are the Native Plant Society. I know David and Linda for a number of years. They've been coming to my walks now, and I don't really think I can rival the knowledge that's in this room about plants. So I wanted to do something a little bit different for you guys and sort of go like another level up and look at not just how much you all love plants, and me too, Ruth knows, because Ruth and I were just trying to figure out a plant that I couldn't ID in my spare 10 minutes. So I love plants, I love animals, but I wanted to look at it from like the eagle-eye view of the entire biodiversity of our state, our country, our earth, and how we're losing biodiversity and the impact that that then ends up having on our human health. So it seems sort of common sense, like we all know we want lots of different species here and that that's a beautiful thing to be able to see multiple kinds of plants and animals out there, but there are direct linkages that indicate that as biodiversity declines, it is going to negatively impact our health as well. So, Ruth already introduced me, so I don't really have to say that much about myself. I am up in Sarasota County at the Extension Office there. Of course, we're in Charlotte County right now, right?
Right.
Yeah, so you have an Extension Office as well here. Our Extension Office, I think, is quite a bit bigger and has a number of different programs. So here are some of the programs that we have. Most Extension Offices have like an agricultural program, a horticulture program, and a 4-H youth development program. We have a wide variety of people that specialize in natural resources, which is sort of the category that I'm under. And so we offer programming in so many different areas. A lot of it is online webinars at this point, thanks to COVID. And most of those are all free of charge. So you can even take some of our programming without coming up into Sarasota County, or if you'd like to come on a walk with me, then I welcome you to do that, because those are like my favorite things to do. These are just some of the program logos of things that we do out of our office. One way up here in the top is the University of Florida Master Naturalist Program, and I am a lead instructor for that. I also am now the past president of their statewide advisory board. So I'm very intricately involved in that program. It's actually why I gave up my private practice and decided to go back into environmental education, is because it's so fulfilling to me to see people fall in love with nature. And so that Master Naturalist program is an amazing program. It's an adult education program where the classes are anywhere from 40 hours or 24 hours, depending on which class you take. And there's field trips involved, and it's just an amazing opportunity to learn about our environment. Has anyone taken a Master Naturalist class here? Excellent. Which one did you take?
I did the 3 core modules. I did it for permanent college courses, actually.
Nice.
So I incorporated, I got college credits for it.
Yeah, you're a certified master naturalist now. Very nice. What did you pick?
All 3.
The core courses too. Very nice. And did I say those? Wow. So we have 3 people in here that are certified master naturalists. Very nice. So there are actually 10 courses. They all took the 3 core courses, which are the ones that focus on the ecosystems, and then there's special topics as well. They're taught out of Charlotte County. Is that where you guys took some of yours? Where'd you take yours?
Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, yep. So a number of different extension offices and other places, not just extension offices, teach these courses throughout the state. I know Jamie was teaching them out of Charlotte County Extension, and now I think is teaching them somewhere else. And then I teach them as well as a number of other people up in Sarasota. So let's just jump right into biodiversity. Here's a picture of the flower that I was asking Ruth to help me to identify. Because I was up in Panhandle a couple weeks ago doing a natural resources leadership training, and I saw biodiversity wrong. I added that slide on my way here. Sorry about that. Gosh, that's so hilarious. A little embarrassed. So I was very diverse in my spelling of biodiversity. But this is a plant that I saw out on some timberland on somebody's timber fields that had basically been destroyed. It's a family-owned business, 6 generations of timber. They had 7,000 acres, and I think 90% of their timber was destroyed in Hurricane Michael. And so we were up there learning about how even 4 years after that hurricane, the devastation to the natural environment. But while I was supposed to be learning about all that, I was walking around taking pictures of beautiful flowers. So we got close to fringe flower or something like that. What was the Loropetalum was the genus. Just beautiful though, like what a great picture. So I chose that as my picture for my badly spelled biodiversity definition. So bio, of course, means life, and diversity means variability. So in its most basic sense, biodiversity is defined as the variability in living organisms on our Earth. But there are also sort of levels of biodiversity, and the 3 most common sort of levels that are recognized are species diversity. That's what most of us think about when we hear biodiversity. We think about the number of different species on the Earth. Genetic diversity has to do with, for instance, if you think about scrub jays. So scrub jays, they have a very unique environment that they live in, scrub or scrubby flatwoods. They're like the Goldilocks. They need everything just right. They don't move very far. They live in family groups. And so if you have just a couple, even if you have a breeding group of scrub jays, like a family group, if there's not another family group that they can genetically intermix with when they breed, we're going to have decreased genetic diversity. And this, of course, is the story of the Florida panther and why they brought Texas pumas in to breed with our subspecies of Florida panther to help get more variability in the genetics. Because we all know if you don't have that variability, then you start having mutations and you potentially lose that species. So bigger picture, species diversity, more finite. When we start looking at DNA, we want genetic diversity. And then there's also ecosystem diversity, which is, as much as we love a wetland, we don't want everything to be a wetland. We want patches, we want a mosaic, we want wetlands and pine flatwoods and hydric hammocks and scrub and all those great different ecosystems that provide a greater biodiversity throughout our earth. And then you can even drill down further and talk about cultural diversity. There's all sorts of different levels when we start talking about biodiversity. So I've got some statistics for you guys. Let's see where I want to stand so I can see my statistics. So there are more than 200,000 species of plants and animals documented in the US. So of course there's probably far more than that because there's still things that we are discovering and trying to name. This includes more than 2,500 native species of vertebrates. And so like 800 species of birds, 400 mammals, 800 freshwater fishes, 300 reptiles, that's a lot of reptiles, 250 species of amphibians across our country. We have the highest number of freshwater mussels, and we're home to a highly diverse group of insects. So who knew that the United States would be like the hot spot for freshwater mussels, right? We also have over 4,000 species of native bees, which of course we also know that the bees are declining as well. So that was for the whole country. Then we're going to start looking at like the southeastern part of our country where we are. And the southeastern plain, which basically went from like, Florida up along the coast through the Carolinas and then down along the Gulf Coast, like Mississippi River over. That's sort of the southeastern plain. It was historically longleaf pine habitat, at least to about central Florida here. And so longleaf pine habitat has been recognized as one of the most diverse ecosystems in our country. So we have lost a lot of that through timbering and turpentining, and now we have a lot of, like, if we look out there, I'm going to guess, I didn't really pay attention on my walk down the driveway, but I'm going to guess most of those are southern slash pine. So we've replaced a lot of what would have been longleaf pine with southern slash pine, which is fine, but it's not as diverse a plant community. We are also, the southeastern US, the global center for salamander diversity. Maybe not right here where we're standing, because I have never seen a salamander in Sarasota County, but certainly in more northern parts of Florida and up into Georgia, we have a lot of diversity of salamanders, and being an amphibian that is very reactive to pollutants, we are seeing declines in those numbers as well. And we also have a high diversity of freshwater fish in the southeast US. So now let's get into our state specifically, Florida. So we have over 700 terrestrial or land-based animals in Florida. Think about that. That's a lot of different types of animals. A lot of us think about the Florida panther because the panther is big and charismatic, but lots of different diversity in terms of our animals. And of course, you guys probably know the statistics for plants. 4,700 species of native or naturalized plants. And we are the state with the third largest population of wild birds. Are any of you birders as well as plant lovers? So like celery fields, right? Amazing. Over 247 birds identified just in this tiny little like semi-man-made stormwater utility system. It's pretty amazing. 44% of our wildlife species are declining, and mostly due to habitat loss. Okay, not only do the animals like to live here, us people love to live here, and we're letting like 1,000 people a day move into Florida. So unfortunately, that's impacting, as we develop areas, it impacts habitat and the loss of it. And for each new resident, it's estimated that a half-acre wildlife habitat is cleared and destroyed. So we really are losing habitat rapidly. So let's talk about the ones that are listed. So when we say listed, that means endangered or threatened, or sometimes there's other categories besides just endangered or threatened. But of the 1,600 species in our country receiving protection, 699 of them exist in Florida. Yeah, so that's like more than 1/3 of the listed species are here in Florida. And that's animals we're talking about. I'm going to get to plants in a minute. 133 of them are in Florida. There's 36 vertebrates, 28 mammals, 32 birds, 20 reptiles, 4 amphibians, and 13 fish. We are also, our state is home to imperiled habitats, such as the scrub habitat. Depending on what research you read, it's anywhere from 50 to 90% of our scrub habitat has been lost in this state. And scrub habitat is a unique ecosystem that many endangered plants and animals are found in, like the scrub jay. And the gopher tortoise. So, Florida's listed plants. 566 total listed plants in our state. 448 of those are actually endangered, which is the most extreme category. 118 of them are threatened, which is the next category down. And then 9 are commercially exploited species. So for instance, up there, that's our saw palmetto, which I'm sure you all know, it's everywhere here, Sarasota repens. So our saw palmetto is everywhere, right? It's not really endangered or threatened, but it's listed as a plant that is a potentially commercially exploited species. It's actually used medicinally. And people will go and collect the berries from this plant, even on lands where they're not allowed to. So there is commercial exploitation of that plant. I have, in another one of my lectures, I have the amount of money just in the state of Florida that's generated by saw palmetto berries. It's pretty amazing, because a little further south of here, there's actually saw palmetto berry operations that work with ranchers and other agricultural lands that have a lot of saw palmetto on them to collect the saw palmettos, and then most of that gets shipped to Europe, where herbal medicine's a little bit more common. So the rest of these are actually either endangered or threatened. So of course our Tillandsia fasciculata, our cardinal air plant up there. These are some pictures if you've gone on a walk with Jeff Weber, which I'm sure the Manleys have. I don't know if any of the rest of you have. He is a land manager in Sarasota County that just is amazing and has an amazing amount of knowledge about native plants. So he took these bottom 3 pictures all in Sarasota County. So some of the examples of our endangered and threatened plants, that pine lily or Catsby's lily, so beautiful, isn't it? So beautiful.
What are the 2 on the bottom, Katherine, you know?
Let me see. This one's Curtis's milkweed. Okay, so that's one of our native milkweeds that one is endangered. It's endangered and it's an endemic plant in Florida. And then the other one is Lowland loosestrife. That one I'm not familiar with. I've never seen that one. Okay, lowland loosestrife. I'll probably butcher the scientific name because I'm not familiar with it. Lythrum
We have a lot of them.
Do you? Yeah. There we go. I'll have to come down here and take some pictures. Okay, so just such a beautiful, I mean, it's just, to think about potentially losing some of these things, it's so saddening to me. So on September 29th of last year, 22 animals and plants were proposed to be removed from the endangered species, not because they rebounded, but because of probable extinction. Of course, this is one that you probably heard about in the news at some point over the last 10 years or so, the ivory-billed woodpecker. This is sort of the infamous one that people say they've seen, but there is not any proof that anybody's seen it since 1944. And then another one from here, or from these areas, would have been the Bachman's warbler, and that was last seen in Cuba in 1962. So 22 species being removed from the list because of extinction or probable. And of course, many of us know the plight of some of our pollinators, like not only the bees, but the monarch butterflies as well. More than 150 species have gone extinct in our country, with another 500 regarded as possibly extinct. And of course, this is just since we've been keeping records, so who knows what the real numbers are. 1/3 of our birds are considered in need of conservation. Our monarch butterfly populations have declined by 90%. And there's been a 30% decline in North American bat species. And there's just been a similar decline worldwide. I'm going to give you all the sad numbers up front, okay? We're going to end on a happy note, I promise. It's like to end on a happy note. So, 68% decrease in population sizes. So now we're not talking about individual species, but actually just the size of the population of species. So 68% decrease between 1970 and 2016. That's not a real long time to see that much of a decrease. At least 680 vertebrate species went extinct since 1500 worldwide. And then more than 2,000 species of amphibians, like those salamanders, are threatened with extinction. This is the highest group among the vertebrate classes. Once again, they're incredibly environmentally sensitive. You know, they have that skin that many of the salamanders actually utilize their skin as for oxygen exchange. So you can just imagine if they're coming in contact with environmental pollutants, the impact that's going to have on that species. So what do you guys think are the leading threats to biodiversity? We've already mentioned one.
Habitat destruction.
Yeah, habitat loss and destruction and fragmentation too, which is similar but a little bit different. So yeah, and who causes all of that? Yeah, I know, right? If you feel bad, I just feel really bad on the way down here as I was thinking about this presentation. So changes in land and ocean use. So, I mean, this picture sort of says it all, right? Hopefully Sarasota and Charlotte County will never look like this, but doesn't that just give you angst looking at it? I see your face, like that's how I feel. I feel like, oh my God, like people all on top of each other and nowhere for the plants and animals to live. So 75% of the Earth's ice-free land surface has already been significantly altered by humans, of course. Most oceans are polluted. More than 85% of the area of freshwater wetlands has been lost. Wetlands have really, they have really taken a substantial hit from human development. So I'm going to skip over some of this because it's sad and because we won't have enough time. So I'd rather make sure we get to some of the happier stuff down the road. This is a map I like to show in a lot of my presentations. If you come to some of my other presentations, you're likely to see this again because I think it's very telling. This is the map of developed land in 2010. So anything that's stippled red is developed land. Anything that's dark or light green is protected land. It's either protected because it's under some sort of agricultural holding, or it's protected, you know, it appears everywhere, protected as conservation land. The projection, when these maps were drawn, the projection of the development in Florida in 2070 would look like this. So everything in red now developed. So I like people to look at this and think about, maybe not plants right now, because plants don't move around much, but think about things like panthers and bears. And think about climate change and how home ranges of not just our animals, but where plants are going to be able to live, that's going to start to change. How do things move? How do the larger animals have wildlife corridors? How do some of those home ranges of plants and animals be able to shift when we're in the way a lot of it? So for those of us that love nature and plants and animals, our job is try to make sure that this gets modified development's going to happen in Florida. Florida's an amazing place to live and come to. We're not going to stop people from coming. We're not going to stop the government from wanting the tourist dollars, the economy to grow. But can we do the development better? Can we be smarter? Can we save linkages of land for our animals and plants? Let's get through Sarasota County. It might be hard for you guys to see on the TV, but this is Charlotte County. I pulled the Charlotte County stuff just for you guys. This is Charlotte County aerial maps from 1952. And they started back then and didn't have the same technology, obviously, that we do now, so they're black and white, and they had to piece them together and then take a picture of the overall thing. So there's sort of, you see some of the boxes where they didn't have a map. But really what you're looking at here is hardly any development. I tried to put the yellow star where we are right now on both maps. So hardly any development. I can see, I'm close to it, a few roads, but what you're really seeing is probably, to me, it looks like a lot of scrubland, to be honest, because I see a lot of sandy soil. I see all those little black dots are wetlands, naturally formed depression marshes. Okay, this is 2020. So there, of course, is that big rotunda thing, all the roads and homes there. Everything built up around this lovely green space that is saved here. So yeah, really different. I really love the aerials because it really helps us understand what was and how much we've altered. So even the celery fields is incredibly altered. Yeah, it's a great place now and home to lots of birds, but it's an incredibly altered ecosystem. It's not what it was. It was a sand, I just forgot the word, was a salt marsh. And now it's stormwater retention ponds that have native plants in them. And a lot of invasive plants. Which leads me to this. So another threat, I put them in a hierarchy. So habitat loss and fragmentation is the #1 threat to biodiversity, but invasive species are a huge threat too. And this is another one of my program areas, so I do a lot of education on invasive species. It's rapidly increased how many invasive species have come into, especially our state. I would say Florida and Texas are some of the big hotspots, partially because we're a state with lots of ports, so there's lots of ships coming in. There's a huge floral industry here. People want to garden with non-native plants, as you guys know, and put beautiful things in their yard, either from other places in the world or just from somewhere up north that shouldn't really be living down here. So 37% of all recorded non-native species were introduced between 1970 and 2014. So it's really ramped up. And we know through research that invasive species have directly impacted and caused some of the decline of our native species. One of the things I think about is for native reptiles in Florida, only 1/3 of the reptiles found in Florida are native. The rest of them are non-native, like Burmese pythons. So so outnumbered. Luckily, plants aren't that bad. We have a lot of native plants, but still, we also have a lot of invasive plants. But reptiles, the numbers are absolutely astounding. Disease is another threat to biodiversity. So part of the reason we're having the decline in bat species all over the world, not just in our country, is because of white nose syndrome. Luckily, at this point, we don't have it here in Florida, but it's a huge impact to a lot of our cave-dwelling bat species. There's something called chytrid fungus that is impacting our amphibians, so we're losing them because of that disease. Deer family, and that's deer, but also in other places like elk and moose. They get something called chronic wasting disease. And then you've probably seen on the news, they haven't really talked about it much recently, but when they were first discovering feline leukomyelopathy, that is a disease that affects the white matter of the nervous system in both panthers, and they found bobcats with it too. They don't understand it. They don't know what is causing it. They don't know how to treat it, but it's a little bit like ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease in human beings. It really impacts their ability to coordinate and move, and eventually becomes a fatal disease for our wild cats here. Pollution, a big threat too. And again, I'm thinking that doesn't surprise you guys either, right? Whether that's chemical pollution like DDT with impacting eagles and their egg shell structure. Plastic pollution is the new thing. You might have heard about that on the news, because now some research studies came out where they're finding plastics in our bodies from things we have eaten or the water that we have drank. And then, of course, overuse of things that are really rampant down here in Florida, pesticides and fertilizer for all the sod and the things that really aren't supposed to grow in lawns here in Florida. And then climate change is, I think, the last one that I'm going to mention. And as I said before, climate change is going to cause some shift in home ranges of animals or in where plants can survive. And so that's going to impact all of this in ways that we don't understand. There are researchers that are doing some amazingly interesting research into this, and if you just go onto the Audubon website for birds, they have these great maps that show what the researchers and the scientists think are going to happen to the home ranges of birds. So I pulled out the scrub jay because it's one of my favorite birds to talk about anyways, and I think it's such a great indicator of sort of what we've done and the problems we've caused. And so red means the range is lost. Talk over the roofers. So scrub jays don't live all throughout that area anymore, but that could have been their historic range. And so they're indicating that at a 3 degrees Celsius increase in temperature, basically there won't be hardly anywhere for scrub jays to live anymore. So if that comes to fruition, if we haven't already lost scrub jays, which is possible, honestly, we're going to lose them because of climate change. This is sandhill cranes. No, this is scrub jays still, sorry. So this is, let me see if I remember what I did here. They're both at 3 degrees. Oh, one of these is summer, and one of these is winter, which is hard to think about here in Florida because they're all hot, in my opinion. But at least in the summer months, there's a little bit more range left. But scrub jays don't fly very far, so it's not like they're going to migrate in the winter. Same story. This is sandhill cranes. So we have residential sandhill cranes here, right? They live here year-round. There's also migratory sandhill cranes. But this is, once again, at a 3 degrees Celsius increase in temperature, all of Florida is red. We want to have sandhill cranes. So this is their best guess, and they have a number of scenarios. I, of course, picked the worst scenario to make my point. But if you're interested, you can go to Audubon and just look up whatever bird you're interested in, and if they've done the research on climate change for that bird, you can pull up these maps. It's really cool to look at. All right, so I've got about 10-ish more minutes, and I'm only about halfway through, so I'm going to go a little faster. I skipped a few things. So there is this new field of study called Planetary Health. It's really interesting, so now I'm going to start to tie it back to us and our health, because what affects nature affects us all. We already know the story that everything, not everything, but across the world, pretty much, there's an increase in urbanization. In America, in the US, 83% of Americans live in what's considered urban areas, and that's increased from 64% in 1950. So we have more people, and more of those people are going into those urban areas. And research has linked increasing urbanization with increased anxiety, depression, and of course stress. Do you ever feel different when you go into, I don't know if you travel to a bigger city? I get sort of excited, right? It's sort of fun to go to like New York maybe, but then after a while, like, it just feels really different. Like you feel different when you're there. Some of it's okay, and some of it not so okay. So in 2001, the EPA did a study, and it indicated that adult Americans spend 87% of their time indoors, 6% of their time in cars, so that only leaves 7% of their time to maybe go outdoors. Not even saying they go outdoors during that 7%. Isn't that sad? You guys probably are like skewed and you're probably way more on the spend time outdoors side of things. And then there was a study done in the UK, and this one I refer to a lot because I do a lot with children, is that children spend half the time outside that they did 2 decades ago. That's shocking, isn't it? This is a whole long list of all the different physical and mental health benefits of nature. I won't explain all of these, but the walk I did this morning was a meditation in nature walk. So we had like an hour silent walk where I did 2 little sort of quick guided meditations while we were walking through a county preserve in Sarasota. And let me tell you, then we all get together at the end when we do a silent walk together. Then for 15 minutes, I send them out to sit by themselves and sort of meditate on their own. And then I bring out all of us back together and we share what our experiences were. In that short amount of time, people feel completely different. Because it really does shift so much of your biochemical, like your actual physiology to be in nature. Like all those stress hormones that cause you to be in fight and flight, like, oh my God, I gotta do this and I gotta do that. Oh my gosh, what about my dog that I left home that's probably gonna pee on the floor? That's what I was thinking about. Like, my old guy, can't hold it in anymore. I'm like, that's what we do. A lot of us are like sort of on overdrive all the time. And when you go out in nature, especially if you go out in nature and you're really present in the moment and you slow down, everything can shift. It's really amazing. So lots of different things on that slide, but nature is good, right? It's really good for children. So research shows decreased ADHD, improved focus, improved academic performance. I won't go through all that either because we're short on time, but take the kids in your world outside. Get them out, bring them here. What a beautiful place. So planetary health is a concept that came about in 2015, and I brought the book by Sam Myers, so you can look up some of his talks on YouTube. You can order the book from wherever, Amazon, wherever you want to order it from. It's a pretty hefty read, so up to you if you really want to read the book, you might just want to watch one of his talks. But Sam Myers is amazing. He is now the principal research scientist for the Department of Environmental Health at Harvard University. I don't know why we all have to have such long titles. We're not that important. But his stuff is amazing, and he's a really great speaker. And he talks about how the health of human beings is intricately entwined with the health of our ecosystems, and there's research to support that. So we've done, this is just a slide that is from actually one of his presentations that I went to, and it once again talks about all the horrible things us humans have done to our earth. So we have changed how land and water is used in multiple ways. Here are some of the benefits to health derived from biodiversity. So of course, fresh air and clean water, right? And when we impact biodiversity, usually the things that are impacting biodiversity are impacting our water sources and our air. Also, our forests and oceans sequester carbon. They hold carbon in that if the carbon is released, that impacts that climate change scenario. And he says it is a quiet but urgent public health threat as humans change natural systems everywhere on the planet. This is me trying to put a whole bunch of words so I didn't have to remember everything on the slide. This is a study about food security and biodiversity. So luckily, probably most of us in this room get to eat 3 meals a day, maybe even more than that, right? But there are currently 820 million people facing hunger or food insecurity in our world. There's a lot of hungry people in our world. Our crops, our agricultural crops that feed the majority of people on our earth are like 9 different things. There's not a lot of diversity, and it's not always seasonal, and it's not always the most nutritious, and it's not always the most local. And us humans, for the best health we can be in, are meant to eat a diverse amount of food that's high in nutrients, that's grown naturally and locally. We're not all meant to eat a bunch of corn and wheat. Neither are animals that we end up eating. We also have a lot of food waste, both locally in our country and as a world. And then, of course, I want to talk about the pollinators a little bit more. We love our pollinators, not only because that helps there be more native plants, but our pollinators are so important for our food source. And they're responsible for roughly 35% of global food production, and we're seeing a significant decline in our pollinators. So I found this really interesting. Their research indicated that a total loss of pollinators, so if we had no pollinators whatsoever worldwide, 71 million people would have vitamin A deficiency and folate deficiency in 173 million people. So vitamin A, important for healthy babies. Okay? It's also important for your immune system, which is certainly an issue currently. Folate also helps with making sure there aren't birth defects in babies. Another really important vitamin for DNA production and things like that. So if we had this scenario where we had total loss of pollinators, it would cause about 1.42 million additional deaths per year worldwide. So we all care about these things, and we all care about them locally, but part of what I like about doing this talk is like taking it big picture, and like this is really a big deal. And then, of course, there's elevated concentrations of carbon dioxide because of what we're doing with our environment as we cut down our forests, as we change our oceans. But that has been directly linked to decreased levels of all sorts of things in our food, like zinc and protein. So, holy cow, who knew that carbon dioxide in our atmosphere would actually end up impacting the nutrition available to us in our food? This is a slide, Dave. You can't even see it anyways, right? I can't even see it. So I just pulled this in this morning before I came here. This is from a World Health Organization. It's like 300 some pages. It's called Connecting Global Priorities, Biodiversity and Human Health. I have not made it through this, but I plan to continue to read this because it is phenomenal. This is a graphic out of this document that just shows all the different ways that our health is impacted by loss of biodiversity. So, how about medicines? A huge percentage of our pharmaceutical medicines are derived from plants. And many of those plants are continuing to be found in areas in like South America, in the rainforest, in Africa. What else do they have on here? Agricultural biodiversity, we just mentioned that. We mentioned nutrition. Oh, disaster risk. So as we lose biodiversity, like we want to think about our coastal ecosystems and how we're losing our mangrove forests. As we lose our mangrove forests, we lose the ecosystem services they provide, like stability to our coastlines to buffer the huge waves that come in when we have severe weather events, as well as the wildlife habitat they provide. Air quality, water quality, microbial biodiversity, which we didn't even talk about, but part of that has to do with soil health. Infectious disease and diseases that are either contained in places or have not even been identified yet, sort of like COVID-19 being released as we continue to develop areas that have so far been almost untouched by humans. So many different impacts. All right, so I'm gonna wind it down because I'm at my time, I know. So how can overwhelming. What do I do? I just came here to like think about native plants. What do I do now? Dr. Katherine like stressed me out. I'm in fight or flight. So you do the stuff that you guys are already doing. You love the environment. You tell people about it. You talk about native plants. You talk about how important that is to not have a bunch of non-natives here that potentially become invasive, because that decreases our local biodiversity. So we protect natural habitats. We create backyard habitats. How many of you have created, backyard habitats with your native plants, right? I know, I'm speaking to the choir here. You use less chemicals on your yards and plants. You remove your invasive species, all stuff that you guys are probably doing. You purchase and plant native species. You support species and land conservation ethics. Okay, so are there some ways you could maybe do that? You support restoration efforts such as prescribed fire. So prescribed fire, hands down, is one of the best land management tools for our Florida ecosystem. So if you're not comfortable with prescribed fire, or you don't know a lot about it, or you have somebody in your world that doesn't like prescribed fire, have them watch one of my videos or come to one of my talks. It is one of the best things we can do for our native ecosystems and the plants and the animals in them. Support smart development, educate others, like spread the good word, everybody, and spend time in nature, because that's how we all connect and reconnect. Usually I talk in Sarasota County. So a third of Sarasota County is actually conservation land, which is pretty amazing. I'm not sure how Charlotte County is, but I'm pretty proud of Sarasota County. And so there are lots of county parks, I'm sure here in Charlotte too, so lots of city, county, and state parks, all within an hour drive from where we sit right now. Go and visit them, support them, take people there. I've got the birding hotspots like Celery Fields, Carlton Reserve, Venice Area Audubon, Rookery, which I just went to last week and took, I think I took 310 pictures in an hour of all the birds, right? And I had to drag myself away because I had a meeting, so. And research indicates that it's not necessarily how much time you spend in nature or how much you learn. Hopefully you learned something from me today, but that's actually, research shows that's not really the most important part. It's about having a positive experience in building connection with nature. So I run a bunch of 3rd through 5th grade field trip programs, and I train the people that help me make those happen, because it takes about 10 to 12 people to do those. And I always talk to them about, we want the kids to leave having learned something. I mean, yeah, that's why we're out here, but it's not the most important thing. The most important thing is that they have fun and they want to come back. Because some of the kids we work with are kids from sort of inner cities. Feels weird to say that about Sarasota, but like inner city Sarasota. We've had kids at Lemon Bay, because we do them at Lemon Bay. We've had kids at Lemon Bay that have never put their feet in the water. And they live in Sarasota County. Okay. So, look, I have goosebumps. This is how you make a difference. Just take your friends and family members out with you and just have fun together in nature, because that makes those connections that fosters that conservation ethic. So in the end, we will conserve only what we love, we will love only what we understand, and we will understand only what we are taught. That's my son right there. That's in Buffalo, New York. That's where I'm from. I took him back to Buffalo, New York a few years ago. He's now like this big. But he was like, that was 4 years ago. He was 12, 13. And he had no problem hugging a tree we're like right in downtown Buffalo in a little park there. He had no trouble hugging a tree in front of a whole bunch of people. That makes me feel like a good mom. That's probably like one of the pictures that I'm most proud of. Because I hope that I've done something right for the next generation. So I thank you guys all for being here. I know that I'm speaking to the choir, but I hope there was something in here that was interesting or new or exciting to you guys. I have some upcoming programs. I have a couple webinars on birds coming up. I have walks about twice a month in Sarasota County on the county preserves. And I have a Master Naturalist Uplands class coming up, which is 6 days long over 3 weeks, and we do field trips to like Mayaka and Oscar Shear and places like that. I have my card up here if you want it. I have some Master Naturalist brochures, and although I'm 7 minutes over, I think Linda will let me answer some questions. She hasn't given me the sign yet, so. Are there any questions I can answer for you guys? All right. Okay, I'll let you continue on your meeting. These are all local plants from some of the state parks and county preserves in Sarasota County. Dave.
Is there anything similar to this on, say, UFIFA's YouTube channel or anything like that?
You know, I've only done this presentation one other time, and it was for the Northport Friends of Wildlife, and I did videotape it, but I haven't put it on YouTube yet because I really wanted to flesh it out more. So I feel like I still have a little bit more work on it before I put it on YouTube. I really wanna get through a little bit more of this before. So probably sometime in the next 4 to 6 months it'll show up on YouTube. But I do have, all of my wildlife webinars are on YouTube. I have about 15 wildlife webinars. We have an invasive plant and animals series. It's an 8-part series. That's all videotaped and on our Sarasota County Extension YouTube channel. But of course, now that COVID is doing whatever it's doing, but at least we're like hanging out together more in person, I would love to see you guys at my in-person walks. So. And I think Linda's putting those on your website, aren't you? So,
Yeah, we have those two. Indeed.
great. So they are easily found by you on your native plant website. Anything else?
How do we get on your YouTube thing?
So it's some ridiculous long like address. So if you just search in Google or something like that, if you just search Sarasota County Extension YouTube, it will take you to our YouTube site. Don't do just Sarasota County YouTube because the county has their own. You have to do Sarasota County Extension YouTube.
Yeah, if I'm up there, I can put it in.
Anything else? And there's other people that have lots of videos on our extension YouTube, so you can look specifically for them. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Catherine. We didn't get too much counting up there, which was good. I was afraid we would be
No, it's
drowned out.
I have that teacher voice too, so it's hard to drown it out.
Actually, it'd be very cool. Last month, we failed to get a picture of the presentation of the thank you certificate to Mary Ann. So we're going to reenact that. So I asked her to bring it back today, and we're going to reenact this. The thank you certificate to Mary Ann for all the work that she and Phil have done in the years here at Cedar Point. They were original trail guides, and gosh, I forgot everything else that you did. You've been secretary, and you've been hospitality chair.
I worked in the office.
And she was a volunteer here at Cedar Point, so we're giving her a thank you certificate.
It was fun.
Now we have just a few little housekeeping things.
Thank you.
Oh, of course, I think most of you already know, join us on our Facebook page. We just passed over 200 Facebook page members, which is wonderful, so we're proud of that. Be sure you read our monthly Mangrove Messenger because we got all kinds of nifty stuff in that, pictures and stories and articles of general interest in ecology and nature. Be sure to check out the website, there's a whole bunch of stuff on that. It also has a calendar of all our events and a news blog of not only our events, but other upcoming things. Advance notice, the annual conference of MNPS is going to be virtual this year. Again, it's May 20th through 22nd. Registration is $50 and it's a, Friday afternoon through a Sunday night. So for your registration, you can stay on the convention for, I don't know what, 48 hours if you want to. Or you can just watch 1 or 2 segments of it, whatever you like. But everybody's invited to that. You don't have to be an officer or even a member. Just register if you like. A preview of the May meeting. A lot of you are already familiar with this, but we're going to have a BYOP, which is bring your own picnic, and a silent auction. And I sure hope we get more people here next month. Okay, our auction items are going to be more things that Lois has donated to the chapter before she moved. Also, items that you all bring, and I will put this, in an email coming out also. And the way silent auction works, if you don't know it, the items are set on a table, and every item has a little sheet like this, where you put your name and your bid, and then the person after you can overbid you, and the person after that can overbid them. And the reason it's silent is because you don't have to sit at your seat and go, $25, $26, and it's all silent. All you have to do is just write it down. So that's what a silent auction is about. We will have a photo loop running during the picnic time, and the tables are going to be filled with auction items. I know they are. So we will just sit at our chairs and eat, bring a sandwich and a snack and something to drink, and that will be our meeting for May. Now, we have 3 upcoming events where we're going to have information tables. First one is Earth Day right here at Cedar Point on April 23rd. You want to talk about that, Gerald?
Sure, so it's going to be pretty low-key out here. We're going to have some activities going on for kids. We'll have some live animals out here, hopefully. We're going to have some hikes, a kayak trip going on, some food trucks, so a cleanup. So kind of lots of small things all coming together to make one bigger event.
Great, and that's 9 to noon, correct?
9 to noon on Saturday the 23rd, the day after Earth Day.
Right. Excellent. The next one is a very nifty event that has been going on for 25 years that I just found out about. Maybe you guys are familiar with it. It's called Go Florida Native, an Arbor Day festival that's at Centennial Park in Port Charlotte, which is at their new facility, on the grounds of their new facility. It's on Friday, April 29th. It's co-sponsored by IFAS Charlotte County, and this year, for the first time, they got Peace River Audubon to co-sponsor with them. And Peace River Audubon has invited a lot of nature-related organizations to have informational tables there. There are commercial nurseries that are not limited to native plants, unfortunately, but there will be commercial nurseries there where you can buy plants. And I asked her how many people they usually get, and she said 500. So it's a big event. Like I said, 25 years, and I never knew about it. So. Okay, that's great. Even greater, these little white things, if you go to this website and register, register, you can pick up a kit of 5 native plants free. Each kit will have 1 tree, 2 shrubs, and 2 flowering plants. They said the retail value is about between $60 and $80. And this is not like a lottery or anything. If you register, you can pick up the plants. They have 15-minute segments, like 10 to 10:15, 10:15 to 10:30, and so on, where you have to show up on that day and pick your plants. But I think that is absolutely awesome.
That part of this event, you go to that Port Charlotte thing.
Yes, to this Port Charlotte event. And she said they have 160 of those kits available, packages available. And when I checked this morning, they had about 40 left. I mean, they didn't really have a count. So they're selling out fast. So if you want to get some free native plants, be sure to check that out. I think it's super. Who's going to be there? Barb's going to help, and Dave and I are going to be there, and I've got somebody else. Might want to help. The Arbor Day Tree Fair is at Northport City Center Green, and that's on Saturday, April 30th. This is sponsored by Alice White, who runs People for Trees. She sells native trees for ridiculously cheap prices. She will have hundreds of trees there. She has 3-gallon trees for just $15 and 7-gallon trees. She said her grower is going to larger amounts, size amount, and they're $25. So I encourage you to come there. There are always tables and tables of organizations there. And that's at Northport City Center Green, and all of these are on the bottom of your thing here. Now, the raffle, and we have so few people, I think just about everybody's going to win something. Do you have any questions about anything that we've done before we start the raffle? Okay, if you'll stay seated while we draw numbers for the raffle. Ticket number is drawn. You can go back and pick up anything you want off the table. Is that black pack supposed to be there? Okay, anyway, so here we go. We're pulling 2 at a time. Oh, well, the first 2 numbers are 214 and 215.
And it's right at the end.
214 and 215.
Now, you would never see it.
Okay,
What is that number?
214 and 215.
215?
Well, go back and pick up something you like.
Find somebody in the first time you come.
Yay!
Keep it coming back.
What do we do?
Pick anything you want. Your choice.
Okay, the next 2 numbers are 212 and 218. Yay! Go pick out something.
I don't care.
2 more numbers. I'll give them time to pick out before
Well, I'm a sucker for surprises.
The family brought that.
Okay, next 2 numbers, 211 and 216. Cheryl gets one. Who else? 211 and 216.
An apron. What's your number? Oh, nice.
Yeah, I wanted you to put in your. I mean, I have a bunch of bags, but it's nice. But it's nice to have one and use it. It's small enough that
No, yeah, 11 and 216. Okay.
Yeah, that's nice.
We still have stuff back there. 217 and 219. So good. Pick something else. Okay, last 2 tickets. 210 and 213.
210.
Yay! Well, go scarf up whatever is left.
Everybody be careful driving out, look under your cars and over the as I just saw one when we were coming in.
And thank you all for coming and for braving the parking and the construction tape and all of that good stuff. And bring all your goodies to the silent auction.
I'm bringing the book.
I never took mine off. It's like
Some of them he's gonna leave out, I don't know how many.
They know it's the way it is. We can wait with theirs.